In the world of horror gaming, we're no strangers to new and innovative ideas that aim to scare us senseless. But recently, we've seen a surge of creativity that's taking the genre to new and terrifying heights. From eerie atmospheric soundscapes to mind-bending narratives, these new horror game ideas are redefining what it means to be scared. What's fascinating about these emerging concepts is that they're not just about jump scares and gore, they're about creating an unsettling sense of unease that lingers long after you stop playing. They're about tapping into our deep-seated fears and exploiting them in ways that are both disturbing and captivating. One thing's for sure, these new horror game ideas are pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible in the genre. And as gamers, we're all the better for it. The horror game genre has been around for decades, and for a while, it seemed like we'd seen it all. Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Amnesia, these classics paved the way for a slew of copycats and imitators. But as the years went by, the genre started to feel stale, with too many games relying on cheap jump scares and cliched plot twists. We've all been there, trudging through a dimly lit corridor, waiting for the inevitable loud noise to make us jump. But beneath the surface, there's a sense of fatigue, a feeling that we've seen it all before. The horror genre was in desperate need of a shake-up, and that's exactly what we're getting. New horror game ideas are emerging that are genuinely terrifying, not just because of their graphic content or loud noises, but because they're tapping into our deep-seated psychological fears. They're about the unknown, the unseen, and the unexplained. These new games are forcing us to confront our darkest fears, to question what's real and what's just a product of our imagination. They're about the blurred lines between reality and fantasy, and the terrifying consequences of crossing those boundaries. The oversaturation of the horror game genre has led to a renewed focus on innovation and creativity. Developers are no longer content to simply rely on tired tropes and cliches, they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, experimenting with new mechanics and narratives that are genuinely unsettling. This new wave of horror games is all about atmosphere and tension, about creating a sense of unease that permeates every aspect of the gameplay experience. It's about drawing the player in, making them feel like they're an integral part of the game world. One of the most exciting things about these new horror game ideas is their diversity. We're seeing games that incorporate elements of psychological thrillers, sci-fi, and even comedy. The result is a genre that's more varied, more experimental, and more terrifying than ever before. From creepy atmospheric soundscapes to mind-bending narratives, these new horror game ideas are redefining what it means to be scared. They're forcing us to confront our darkest fears, to question what's real and what's just a product of our imagination. In this new wave of horror games, we're seeing a renewed focus on storytelling, on creating narratives that are both engaging and terrifying. We're seeing characters that are multidimensional, complex, and relatable, characters that draw us in and refuse to let us go. These new games are about the unknown, the unseen, and the unexplained. They're about the things that go bump in the night, the monsters that lurk in the shadows, and the horrors that lie just beneath the surface. Let's take a look at some of the most bizarre and terrifying new horror game ideas out there. One game that immediately caught my attention is The Last Station, a post-apocalyptic horror game that takes place on a creepy, abandoned train. As you navigate the train's eerie corridors, you'll encounter all manner of twisted creatures and terrifying scenarios. Then there's The Hunger, a game that takes place in a world where the laws of physics no longer apply. It's a game that's all about uncertainty, about not knowing what's real and what's just a product of your imagination. We've also got games like The Shattered, a game that takes place in a world where time is broken. Imagine playing through a game where the very fabric of time is unraveling before your eyes. It's a truly terrifying prospect. Another game that's caught my attention is The Lost Domain, a game that takes place in a world where the boundaries between reality and fantasy are blurred. It's a game that's all about exploration, about uncovering the secrets of a mysterious, ancient world. These games are just a few examples of the many terrifying new horror game ideas out there. But there's one game that stands out from the rest, a game that's so mind-bending, so terrifying, that it's sure to leave you sleeping with the lights on. That game is The Silent Ones, a game that takes place in a world where silence is the only sound. Imagine playing through a game where the only sound is the beating of your own heart. It's a truly unsettling experience. What's most terrifying about The Silent Ones is its use of audio design. The game's developers have created a world where sound is the only thing that's missing, and the result is a sense of unease that permeates every aspect of the gameplay experience. The Silent Ones is a game that's all about atmosphere, about creating a sense of tension that's almost unbearable. It's a game that's sure to leave you on the edge of your seat, wondering what's lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce. As we've seen, these new horror game ideas are pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the genre. They're forcing us to confront our darkest fears, to question what's real and what's just a product of our imagination. These games are about the unknown, the unseen, and the unexplained. They're about the things that go bump in the night, the monsters that lurk in the shadows, and the horrors that lie just beneath the surface.